Hello and welcome to the Fossil Huntress podcast. In this episode, we're going to spotlight one of the most impressive mammals of the Pacific Northwest, those big fellas we know as moose. Moose are one of those iconic animals that you sometimes meet in the wilds of Canada and across northern USA and parts of Europe. They are taller than most everyone you know. They're bigger than a racehorse. So picture a big, black, meaty racehorse with kind of a shaggy brown coat. They weigh more than your car. They are fast. And they are herbivores. So we sometimes encounter them lumbering solo. They like to live off on their own around the edges of rivers and lakes. They love to take a refreshing swim, so you'll often see them either snacking while being in the water or snacking at the water's edge. And they like to dine on short grasses, water plants, woody shrubs, and pine cones. And you sometimes see them with these great big racks. So if you were to take your hands and hold them out, your hand pattern is kind of like the antlers on their heads, very similar in pattern. And the males are the only ones that have those antlers. The males are called bulls, and they make quite a racket in mating season. So they make this big sort of bugle-like sound during the mating season that we call the rat. And these bugle-like calls are maybe slightly offensive to you and I, but they are the equivalent of, hey, ladies. So they get the female's attention. So the females do not grow antlers, but they do have their young. And when two males come together and sort of lock horns, as it were, you've heard that expression, it's generally, 99% of the time, over a lady. So these impressive mammals are the largest living members of the deer family, and they boast the largest set of antlers. And it's only the males with the antlers, so their impressive headgear can grow up to 6 feet across, and they use them in displays like posturing and fighting, sometimes self-defense if they get in the way of another bull, but generally it's regarding a lady moose or a cow. When you see them in the wild, although they're built for speed, their front legs are a little bit longer than their back legs, but you usually see them kind of casually lumbering along. The females or cow may be bringing their babies out to feed on grasses, and she'll have 1 or 2 each year. I've seen videos. I haven't seen anybody with a moose on their lawn, but I've had friends send me videos, and I've seen them in social media where a moose will rock up to your house and play with your sprinkler. Recently in Canada, a young female moose waltzed her way into a kindergarten and was kind of moving about and knocking things over. So they're comfortable around humans. When I've been in Banff, the smart moose know when hunting season is, and they know that nobody shoots things in the cities. So Banff and Lake Louise, you'll often see them during hunting season, just kind of casually hanging out in town. And when you do see them, they don't ever appear to be moving very fast. I've only encountered one at great speed, but these guys can run up to 55 kilometers an hour. So they move fast. They have excellent hearing and a wonderful sense of smell. Their vision isn't all that good, so you can sneak up on them to get a photo, but they can smell you if you're downwind, and they can certainly hear you. The binomial or scientific name for moose is Alces alces, which is from Linnaeus in 1758. And the word moose, that casual word we use for them, is borrowed from Algonquin. In the various Algonquin dialects in Narragansett, moose are called mus, and in eastern Abenaki, these large mammals are called mas, and both are likely derived from musu, meaning he strips off. And in the Proto-Algonquin, we see this as the form maswa, so he strips off. In the Kwakwala language of the Kwagyuth or Kwakiutl, speakers of Kwakwala on the north shores of the Pacific Northwest, moose are known as kliwuls, and their antlers are wulkla, so klewuls or wulkla. And while you don't generally see them moving all that fast, I did have a very close encounter with a moose moving at great speed. And I often write about natural history, and I write, the max height, the max weight, the max speed of various species. And I was proven wrong. So in a close encounter on the Bowron Lake circuit, so I just finished paddling Babbitt Lake and was about to get ready to portage over to the next lake, a friend who was with me looked up and said, there's a moose coming our way. And around the edge of the lake, about a couple 100 feet away, was a mama moose coming at us at great speed. So her feet were just a froth of white in the water, and behind her was her calf, close on her tail. And so we go, look, a mama moose, a baby moose. And then we look, not a third moose, it was a grizzly. So the grizzly and the moose were in a fight to the finish, so they were neck and neck. And the mama was outrunning the baby, and they were running directly towards us. And so about 6 feet in front of me was a kayak, a Kevlar kayak, not much defense, but there was no time to move. And so we just stood perfectly still as Mama Moose came running, roaring towards us at her full 55. I would have clocked her faster, but she was highly motivated. And so she comes tearing straight towards us, comes all the way up to the kayak and burns 90 degrees into the woods. And then her baby, her calf, comes all the way up and does the same thing, deek, 90 degrees in the woods. And the grizzly was fast and frothing at the mouth, didn't notice the sharp turn of the two moose, and stopped just past the boat and stood on its hind legs, frothing at the mouth, staring at us. And in that moment, I can feel the goosebumps just telling you that. And in that moment, there was this crack in the woods, and the grizzly turned its head, honk, and went back on all fours, honk, 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 chasing the moose. So in a head-to-head, where the moose was very motivated, they outran the grizzly. So in theory, grizzlies are faster than moose, but in my experience, a motivated moose is faster than a grizzly. So with that tale of grizzlies, we'll talk of predators. So wolf, grizzly, and humans are moose's biggest, greatest predators, and we're the worst of the lot. So what we don't shoot, we hit with our cars. So we're not very good to these lovely herbivores. Moose are ungulates, so they're mammals with hooves, and they are a four-legged mammal. The first ungulates we find in the fossil record about 50 million years ago, and that lineage split off into two groups, those with an even number of toes and those with an uneven number of toes. And we see the first proto-deer about 35 million years ago, and so these were proto-deer like Cindoceras, and they share features with deer, horse, giraffes, and antelopes, but don't look super deer-like to you and I. They had a bony skull with outgrowths similar to antlers, and they were found all around North America in the Miocene, so about 35 million years ago. And then about 10 million years later, we see the first animals you and I would recognize as deer. And this lineage is the lineage that moose belong to. So we first see moose in the fossil record during the Upper Pleistocene. So this is a time of global glaciation, and they expanded out across North America. And so their population grows and shrinks in relationship to wolves and bears and us. Today on the planet, in Canada, there's about 500,000 to 1 million moose at any given time. I know that's a big spread, but it depends year to year. There's about another 200,000 or so that live south of us in the northern USA. And then across Europe and Asia, there's about another million plus of their relatives. So if you make it to Canada, your best shot at a moose, and I mean that in the non-pulling the trigger, but just a camera shot, is Banff, Lake Louise, the Bowron Lakes. If you go to a place where there's rivers and streams away from the city, that's a good place to look for them. And they love a good swim, so if you go early in the morning to a lake and just sit quietly, you'll often see one come down to head in for a dip. So I hope you get to see them. Anyway, I'll stop it there and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Take care.